Hey, good morning. It's Tuesday morning on a cloudy skies today. Come back and got me a chair, sit down, just hanging out, watching the water, watching for anything that'll move out in the woods, out across the pond from me. It is pretty out here today. We've got cloudy skies, windy. It's supposed to be up in the upper 70s or low 80s today. And we'll see what it's like when it comes around to us. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be nice out here today. We got 1 Timothy 5, verse 16 today. There's one reference to it. 1 Timothy 5, verses 3 through 8. So we'll get this read, so we'll have get the scriptures in here. Read these all in context. All right, get them out and read them in context. See what all this 1 Timothy chapter 5 is about, and to follow this out. Read them in context, and all the references that we put out, read in context so you'll understand more. All right. We give this message, this message from Paul's writings. The risen Christ revealed something to Paul that he did not reveal to anyone else. So it's important, or he wouldn't have come down and done it. You know, it's a purpose of God. So we find through Paul's writings the purpose of God. We find the will of God in there. We find, the salvation of all mankind, which is the will of God. Salvation of all mankind. Who wills that all men understand the truth and become in the knowledge of the truth and understand, and eventually all will understand it at the consummation when God will be all in all. And it's important that we see that through Paul's writing. All right? So we stick with that, with Paul's writing. So I can go through these references, and I just use the ones that Paul has, because when you look at the context of the rest of the scriptures, those are all aimed at Israel, the circumcision gospel, is who that is. And Paul was for the uncircumcision, for the nations. And you can see all through scriptures, that's what it's for. So that's why we keep them separate. All right? That's clear, isn't it? When you understand Paul's writing, you get a whole new understanding of what scripture is and God's purpose in mankind is all there. Pretty neat. Now, here's what we got in 1 Timothy chapter 5. Verse 16. If any believing woman has widow with her, let her be relieving them, and let not the ecclesia be burdened, that it should be relieving those who are really widows. Widows be honoring who are really widows. Now if any widow has children or descendants, let them learn to be devoted to their own household first, and recuperate by paying their progenitors, for this is welcome in God's sight. Now, one really a widow and alone relies on God, and is remaining in petitions and prayers night and day. Yet she who is prodigal, though living, is dead. These things also charge, that they may be irrehensible. And that's a reference to 1 Timothy 5:16. All right? So, like I say, put that in context and read it all out and understand that, get a better and deeper understanding of that. All right? I won't add anything to Scripture. I'll put that up and call that a done deal. Got a Big bird flying up here. See that? Those are a vulture here, and they fly around. The vultures do and they sniff the air, little sniffers. They're ugly up close. They're an ugly bird, but they're scavengers. They look for the dead things, and they keep the land clean. Scavengers, you know, they're an important part of God's creation. A scavenger, yep. They clean up stuff, like the catfish in the ponds. They're the scum. They eat the bottom of what's on the bottom. They clean it up. Little things, you know, even everything has a purpose. God's created to have a purpose. Even evil, you know, death has a purpose. And you know what? God uses that even for His glory. His Son, Jesus, defeated death. Yeah, He did, and that's for all mankind. That's for perfection. See, when God created man in their image, we are creating man in our image. It's talking about all humanity, not just Adam, all humanity. And Jesus is the first to be completed in all that. He has defeated death, and now he's been roused and has life Eonian. You know, he's the only one with Eonian life. He defeated it, and he was the first fruit, and we will follow. And then eventually all will have life, because the last enemy is going to be defeated, is death. So, you know, God's for us. He's all for us. He's got a purpose in our lives. God's for us. Who can be against us? Right? He has a better purpose than any man could ever want for anything, or for anyone else. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be an awesome day. Why? Isn't it just something? How, you know, we had Seth here and Rebecca, the little baby's Forrest was here. The miracle of life. You know, it just, and that'll change so much when you have a young one introduced into your life. When you first understand that you're going to be a parent, that you're going to be a father or a mother, there's a new sense come over you of a whole new responsibility that at first is kind of overbearing, overpowering. You're like, wow, how am I going to do, and what am I going to say, and how am I going to, it's all questions. But after you get it, if you have your little baby and you got this little, the questions kind of fade out, the unsureness comes in, and the instinct that God gave each one of us, He gave us an instinct, and that kicks in because it's a purpose in God to give that to you. God's purpose. Life. Beyond the reach of death is God's purpose for us. For every one of us. And it will be done. How awesome is that? Woke up this morning and I thought, another day that God has given us to live life. And we take it, live it to the best of our ability, putting on the new humanity. Because Christ lives in us. He dwells in us. The same Spirit that Christ out from among the dead lives in us. Man, can you imagine? It's going to be an awesome day. Let's go see what God's got. Y'all ready? See what God's got laid out for us? You're awake? That's a good deal. Let's go see. And I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. See you then.